I think about everything that can be said has been said, except for the fact that the ranking member referred to the possible witnesses, Mr. Lewandowski, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Kushner, et cetera, as being underlings of Mr. Mueller. They are not underlings of Mr. Mueller.
With the gentleman yield,
they are not underlings.
I did not say that. That is not true. I never.
I have the floor.
The gentleman from Tennessee controls the time.
They are not underlings of Mr. Mueller. They are direct witnesses of possibly obstruction of justice. And therefore, if they need to be subpoenaed, they need to be here, and they need to have as much time as possible. It is so important that we get the direct witnesses, the best evidence to obstruction of justice. Obstruction of justice of should Mr. McGahn go and tell Mr. Mueller that he's fired? Direct witnesses of people who might have gone to Mr. Sessions and said, unrecuse yourself. Direct witnesses of people who might have had knowledge of Mr. Trump dictating a note to say, I'm the greatest ever, and Mr. Sessions should limit this work to simply what happened in the next election and not my election. Direct evidence of Mr. Pecker and buying the silence of Ms. Stormy Daniels. Direct evidence of obstruction of justice with Mr. Pecker being able to tell us about possibly Miss August and what happened with her and why they paid her off after the president said, I know nothing about this, I have never heard of this, I'd never paid any money, I've never heard of these people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they're not underlings, they're direct witnesses to crimes that this committee has a responsibility to oversee and bring forth if they do exist to the American people. And Mr. Mueller will do that too, because he had 4 or 5 instances of obstruction of justice minimum where all 3 elements were met, and but for the opinion of the legal office in the Justice Department that the sitting President of the United States cannot be indicted for a crime, he would have been indicted for a crime. He would have been, just as he is in New York State, number 1, and he would be with Michael Cohen. He was an unindicted co-conspirator. And we've got that situation. And as far as the border, there's issues. We shouldn't have to learn about the border from Facebook posts of agents that talk about members of Congress in sexually suggestive terms. That's not where we should be getting our information. We should be getting it directly from people. And if the folks from ICE and the folks from our Border Patrol, and there are a lot of great folks working there, can come and give us good information, they clear that up, that's great. And if they can't, that's fine too. Mr. McClintock's right, there are good people working there, but it's not going to hurt to have them testify because there's been a lot of information that says otherwise, and there's a lot of information about inhumane conditions at the border. So these subpoenas should be issued. We should do our job, which we did not do when the Republicans were in charge. We did no oversight. The only oversight they really did was Benghazi, 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 Benghazi. So I appreciate that, and I yield
would the
some
gentleman
time
yield?
to the chairman.
Oh.
I know you don't. And I yield to Ms. Escobar, and I'm going to go to the border with her on August 1st, and I think it's great what you're doing, and we need to go see it for ourselves. And I yield.
Lady from Texas.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Cohen. And I'd invite any of my colleagues to join me on any of the congressional delegation visits, please. I want to clarify something, a myth that is being perpetrated over and over and over again that needs to stop. This idea that the Democratic Party somehow was in denial about what was happening on the U.S.-Mexico border is really offensive. Here's what we were saying. We were saying that we saw the challenge facing us. I saw the challenge facing us. I saw it up close at my front door, my community. When it became a crisis is when this administration chose to implement policies that were cruel. That's why it's a humanitarian crisis. This country has incredible resources. DHS has incredible resources. It's not a question of resources, it's a question of will. Thank you. I yield back.
And I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.